Hey, what's going on? It's Josiah Novak with The True Transformation, back again today with a whole breakdown on how to get motivated, how to stay motivated, and how to not quit when motivation is lacking. Motivation or lack thereof is definitely the biggest issue that gets brought to my attention from clients, from people who are in our programs, people I talk to, honestly, people just that I interact with around the world on a daily basis. One of the biggest things I hear from them is that I can't seem to stay motivated. One of the 5 principles that we talk about in our lean body lifestyle as part of our True Transformation program is how important mindset is and how we think about things and the emotions that we deal with, how we deal with them, and how we use them to our advantage, and how we control our thoughts and our feelings and our actions through our mindset. That is one of the biggest factors when it comes to changing your life, becoming successful at whether it's fitness, whether it's business, whether it's your relationships. Your mindset is huge. And honestly, motivation, despite it maybe getting sold to you as something that is easy to obtain, is one of the hardest things in the world to always have. In fact, I'll just be really honest with you. I'm rarely all the way motivated, right? There's usually a big part of me that doesn't feel very motivated. So today I want to break down 7 reasons or 7 ways to maybe not worry so much about motivation, but in turn be able to stick with something even when you feel like giving up, even when motivation is lacking. How do you push through? How do you keep going? We're going to cover 7 things that you need to consider. Before we do that, I want to address something about motivation. The truth about motivation is that motivation itself is simply an emotional state. Being motivated is like being angry or being sad or being excited. It's just a temporary emotional feeling that maybe does come around once every so often. Maybe you see a picture that gets you motivated. Maybe you have an event coming up that gets you motivated. But ultimately that motivation goes away. And it's not always easy to get motivated. In fact, the reason why it's oftentimes challenging to get motivated is that we know what comes after motivation, right? We know that the work comes after motivation. Our brains go, well, I could probably get motivated by looking at this picture or thinking about what I have coming up. But ultimately, I know that after I'm motivated, I have to actually get out there and take action and do the work. And our brains oftentimes don't want to do that, right? We want to stay comfortable. We want to stay in our little comfort zone, if you will, and not go after the hard stuff, right? Go after the uncomfortable situations that we need to face if we want to get results. So the truth about motivation is that it comes and goes. It's not reliable. It's not something that you can just snap our fingers and get anytime we need it. And ultimately, we need to dig deeper if we want to have a stronger mindset and be able to push through tough times even when we feel like giving up. So let's talk about reason number 1. The number 1 reason that I see that a lot of people struggle around, or one of the reasons why people struggle, is that when it comes to getting motivated, you don't have a deep enough reason for actually doing something. What do I mean by that? So let's say you want to lose weight. You want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. You want to get rid of your gut. You want to feel confident with your shirt off. Those are surface level desires, and there's nothing wrong with them. Like, those are good, okay? It's important. We all have them, right? Just being real. We all want to look better. We all want to feel better. We all want to have better energy, all that good stuff. But really, we got to start thinking about why. Why do I want those things? And why is it important to know our deeper reason for wanting those things? Well, it's because when times get tough and you actually have to push through a period where maybe you're not succeeding, or you're having to struggle to learn something new, or maybe you're trying to lose weight and you just can't seem to stick to your diet all the time and you're getting frustrated. Well, you have to have a deeper reason for wanting to change. And oftentimes people don't change until they're faced with like a life or death situation. We're coming out of a pandemic where a lot of people are or were sick, and there was a health scare. And oftentimes people have to go through that or something like that, where they get this fear of like, oh my gosh, I may not be here. I may not be able to stay around if I don't take care of my health, if I don't get in better shape. It could be something like, going to the beach and you take your shirt off and somebody makes a comment like, oh, you've been eating, one too many donuts, huh, buddy? And you're like, damn, that self-conscience, or that self-confidence goes down the tubes. And you're like, man, that really hurt. And it cut to your core. And that drives you to make a change. I know for me, it was the pain of feeling insecure about my ability to be strong, my ability to defend myself as a younger man. I felt really insecure about my body. And there were people who made comments to me in high school, later in high school and early years of my college life, that really drove me to want to make a change. And that was one of the reasons why I got into fitness. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a deeper reason, meaning, hey, I want to be around for my kids. Hey, I want to go out and be able to start a business that requires me to be healthy. Or, hey, I want to be the best husband or spouse I can possibly be. Then when push comes to shove and things get tough, it's going to be hard to push through. If all you're thinking about is getting your arms a little bit bigger or having a slightly tighter midsection, those things are cool, and I don't blame you for wanting those things, but you got to have a deeper meaning behind those things. So one of the things that people lack is a why. And I talk about meaning as one of our 5 pillars. So we have our mindset and our meaning. And our meaning has to drive us forward. Like that is one of the key components to a successful change or transformation, is that you have to have a strong meaning behind what you do. So let's talk about number 2. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is one of the hardest things for me to teach you. You have to experience this. Being uncomfortable is a sign that you're headed in the right direction. If we're always comfortable and we're never forced into a situation, or we're never putting ourselves in a situation where we have to adapt or we have to get better, or we have to learn something new and we struggle a bit, then we're probably not progressing as people. We're not putting ourselves in a position to succeed, because I'll tell you what, success comes with being uncomfortable. It just does. If you're trying to lose weight, you're going to have some uncomfortable weeks. You're going to have some uncomfortable months. You're going to have to say no to things that you said yes to before. You're going to have to really question some of your habits and routines, and that can be really uncomfortable. But that uncomfortable feeling, what I tell people all the time is you need to thrive off of that. You need to get excited when that feeling pops up, because that means you're headed in the right direction. You are on your way to success. If you are uncomfortable, if you're like, man, this is challenging, I'm not feeling like this is easy, good. That's something you need to embrace. Right? Being uncomfortable is part of the process if you want to become the best version of you. I'm not a life coach. I'm here to tell you like, hey, I'm a guru. I can, change your mind and craft your mind. I'm here to tell you just what I've experienced, what my clients have experienced, and how we focus and how we think about things when it comes to transformation. And like I said, one of the biggest things, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's going to be days where you just don't feel like going and doing things. There's going to be days where you don't feel like eating certain things, and you're going to have to just do it. But you're going to have to, in your brain, train yourself to go, this is a good sign that I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable right now. This means I'm on the right path. So let's talk about willpower, number 3. Willpower is limited, okay? A lot of us have some willpower, and a lot of us struggle with willpower. But I'll tell you that no matter what kind of experience you have with willpower, you're going to run out eventually if you continually try to tap into saying no and staying strong and avoiding temptation, all these things. If you put yourself in a situation where there's temptation all the time, right in front of your face, your environment is full of things that are just trying to get you off track, you're going to struggle. What you need are systems and habits. You need to know, all right, this is what I need to do every day in order to be successful. And this could mean planning ahead. This could mean eating foods that taste a certain way that you like. This could mean having your go-to meals at restaurants. This could mean scheduling workouts at the right time of day so that without a doubt you're going to be able to get them in, instead of having to use willpower to force yourself to do things when they're not very convenient. Sure, you're going to have to get uncomfortable like we talked about in point number 2, but having systems and just a process to follow. One analogy I'll give you is that, if we're driving a car, right? Imagine if we had to change every little thing inside the engine, make sure everything's running smoothly. We had all these things we had to worry about, right? And we're constantly stressed and anxious just to keep the car moving. Instead, what we have is a system, right? We have an engine that works on its own. All we really have to do is put it into drive, keep our hands on the wheel, use the gas as appropriate or as needed based off speed limits, and keep our eyes on the road, and we let the rest kind of handle itself. We got to have a simple system to follow when it comes to your fitness or anything you're trying to pursue in life. If you have this complicated mess of things like trying to eat 8 times a day, trying to go to the gym 7 times a week, trying to do cardio first thing in the morning every day, trying to do 10 different things and take 20 different supplements, that's going to require a lot of willpower, and it's not going to work long term. You're going to run out. Willpower is not a finite resource or an infinite resource. It's finite, right? You don't have unlimited capacity to be strong with your willpower. It just doesn't work that way. Understand that you need to have systems. If you don't have one, that's one of the first areas I would start focusing on. So let's talk about number 4. And that is, we need to understand that who we are is something we can change. Okay, what do I mean by that? We oftentimes think that we are who we are, right? We're stuck with our certain genetics. We're stuck with our bad habits. We're stuck with all these things that led us to this point. And that's just who we are. We're born that way. There's nothing we can change. And it's hard to get motivated when you feel like you're battling yourself. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can get into a different character. You can become a different version of yourself. Someone who is healthier, someone who has better habits, someone who works harder. Despite what anybody else will tell you, like, you do have control to do that. You can start acting like the person you want to become, and then ultimately you will become that person. This happened to me many years ago. You know, like I said, I started out as like a skinny fat kid, and then I did gain a lot of weight at one point. I was overweight, and I'd see these guys who were like super lean, and I'm like, man, like, what in the hell? Like, am I just stuck in this body, right? Am I just stuck in this brain that works a certain way and there's really not much else I can do about it? Or are there secrets? Are there habits? Are there things that these people do that I can start emulating even if I haven't reached that result yet? Once I started to just ask myself in certain scenarios, what would the lean, fit version of me do in a situation like this? And I would start to act that way immediately, even though I wasn't lean yet. Well, all of a sudden I started to change who I was, right? My habits, my go-to routine started to shift and things started to take shape. I started to notice faster results because I was getting into character. You are not stuck as the person you were 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years. Even if you've lived 30 years or 40 years unhealthy, out of shape, not training, you can become a different version of yourself if you allow your mind to get into that character. I know it sounds a little crazy, but it's really, really true. Genetics are important, of course, when it comes to your overall capacity to get to a certain level of success, right? Like, we're not all going to be 6'7" and be able to dunk a basketball or be 300 pounds with abs, right? Like, those things are genetic, like, anomalies. They're not going to happen to all of us. But we can definitely become the best version of you, right? You can become the best version of yourself. That is more than possible. That can be reality if you allow yourself to get into character. Here's another reason, or another thing to think about with motivation. And this is tip number 5. Focus on behavioral checkpoints, not outcome checkpoints, okay? Very simple way to think about this. If we're only focused on an outcome, meaning let's say I want to have a 6-pack. If I wake up every day during the course of, the next month and I don't see a 6-pack, well, I start to get pretty down on myself. Motivation starts to go away because I'm like, dude, this ain't happening. This is impossible. Instead, if I focus on behavioral targets and I say, hey, did I hit my steps yesterday? Did I hit my calories yesterday? Did I get enough sleep last night? Did I drink enough water? And I start checking the box. Yes, yes, yes. Then I know, man, I'm on track, right? Like, I got nothing to worry about because I'm just trusting the system. Not focused on the scale, not focused on the mirror. Those things will happen and you'll get there. But my behavioral goals are what's going to drive me there. And that keeps me motivated because those are, or at least it keeps me feeling good about my progress. I may not be motivated, but I'm going to feel good. Okay, versus being like, dang, another day without abs, right? And that can really destroy not only your motivation, but it can destroy your willpower, can destroy your self-belief. And so you want to focus on behavioral goals, not the outcome-based goals. Let's talk about writing your story. That's number 6, writing your story. Think about your most loved hero story, right? Someone who you looked up to. Maybe it was Arnold. For me, it was Arnold. Maybe it was, an action hero. Maybe it was like someone who achieved a lot in their field. Maybe it was someone who pioneered. These people have stories, right? And typically they go through these low rock bottom periods in their life where they're kind of at the end of their wits, right? And they're just like, man, I don't really know what to do from here. And all of a sudden they have this journey they go through where they have this heroic rise to their success. What is your story going to be? Are you writing your story? Are you thinking about, if someone were to write a book about you, what would that look like? And it could just be your fitness journey, right? Like, well, so-and-so started out overweight and most of his life he was 30 pounds, 40 pounds overweight, never felt good about his body. But then one day he watched this video and he started to take the advice that was given. And next thing you know, a year later, he looked like a completely different person and he started to inspire other people. When I thought about my story, that's really what I thought about. I thought, man, what do I want people to remember me as? What do I want to do in terms of impact? And I still think about this all the time. If someone was writing a biography on me, what would that look like? Would I be the guy who just kind of sat around, never made it, never did anything with his life, never became the best version of himself? Or did I just buckle down and say, okay, this is it. I'm going to follow this system. I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to stick to these patterns and these routines and these systems, and I'm going to get there because my story will be written this way. That is a beautiful way to get your mind in the right place. Start thinking about your story. Write it down yourself. What is this story going to look like? Okay, our minds lead us towards the results we want. So think about your story. Number 7, understand you're not going to be perfect, but what will improve your performance is practice. So with motivation, if you're struggling some weeks and you're like, geez, like this is really tough. I'm not motivated. I can't seem to get my mind in the right place. You got to remember, practice is your best friend. You're never going to be perfect. There is no one out there. Michael Jordan, best basketball player to ever live, was never perfect, but he practiced a lot. And he never stopped. He never stopped trying to get better. Never stopped putting in reps. That led to progress. And that progress went crazy sky high at one point, right? I mean, he was the most popular person walking the planet at one point because of his success. But it wasn't because he was perfect. It wasn't because he didn't put in the work. He put in reps. He put in practice. And so look at these opportunities where you lack motivation as opportunities to practice. These are your practice grounds, right? Because when it gets time to get in the real game, when you're out there on the beach or you're at the pool or you take your shirt off in the bedroom or you're just walking around in your daily business and people are starting to look at you as a leader, that's when it's game time, right? That's when it's like, okay, this is why I do the work. This is why I show up. When my kids look at me and say, Dad, how do I get muscles like that? That's when I go, see, this is game time. This is why I put in those practice reps. This is why I push through those tough days for moments like this that I'll never forget. So if you're struggling with motivation, those 7 tips will help you. Motivation is an emotion. It's an outcome. It's not something you can just snap your fingers and fill yourself up with motivation and go kick ass every day. It's a lie, to be honest. People who say, I'm always motivated, I can just get motivated, they're not telling you the whole story. Don't wait for motivation to show up to go kick ass in your own life. Start now. Use the tips I gave you. Use the 10-minute rule. 10-minute rule is just doing something for 10 minutes even when you don't feel like it. And if you don't feel like it after 10 minutes, stop. If you want to keep going, do it. 10 minutes is a small, bite-sized chunk of action to get you on the right path. I have a whole guide on this if you're interested. I have a link in the description below in the first comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the description if you're listening to it on the podcast. If you're interested in the 10-minute rule and you're seeing this on social media, just leave a comment, 10-minute rule, and my team will send it over to you. If you haven't already subscribed and followed us on all social platforms, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, the True Transformation Podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Josiah Fitness, and check us out on YouTube, True Transformation, Josiah Fitness on YouTube. And hopefully this message resonated with you. If it did, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if this helped. And until next time, Josiah Novak, thetruetransformation.com. Talk to you soon. Peace.